Hi everyone, welcome to the August webinar, an introduction to CSS with Wikia. We are about to get started, so thanks for attending, and here we go. So my name is Sarah Manley, and I am a community manager here at Wikia. And today we have with us Lucas Garchevsky, who's better known as Tor in our community, who's a community engineering manager. So today we're going to give you an introduction to CSS. What are the basic elements of CSS? Some pointers on how to get started with using it and how it's used on Wikia. I want to start off by saying that this is a basic introduction. CSS is a complex language, and we could probably spend a couple of hours here describing all the elements and capabilities. But we don't have time to do that, and I'm sure many of you don't have a couple hours either. So today we're just going to start with the basics, and at the end we'll give you some links to some more advanced help, as well as have a Q&A session and a live demo. So you can feel free to submit questions at any time. Bert Hall, another community manager, has graciously joined us to help answer some of your questions, and we'll be writing them down and bringing them up at the end. If you have any trouble with the sound or anything like that, please let us know. We've been told that the sound can be a little quiet, so I also recommend turning up your volume a bit. So you might think, what the heck is CSS? Well, obviously, it's one of the hottest Brazilian rock bands around right now. And I'm sure all of you thought you were getting a live concert, but actually what we're talking about is something called cascading style sheets. Better known as CSS, since that's a mouthful to say. CSS is a programming language, and it interacts with HTML. It allows you to stylize text, images, and the layout of your wiki. So to think about this, HTML is basically the structure of your page, and CSS is used to define the look of this structure. So modifying your wiki CSS is a way to create unique designs to the areas that you can't do in the theme designer. So hopefully all of you are familiar with our theme designer, which lets you modify many aspects of your wiki, but this is kind of going to the next step and getting a bit more detailed on that design. So as I mentioned, what you need to know is some familiarity with HTML. You can, if you do know HTML, it's going to be easier for you to pick up CSS, but don't be afraid if you don't know HTML that you're not going to be able to do this. You are going to be able to do this. It just will take a little bit of testing. You need to pay kind of close attention to the details of when you're cutting and pasting from other wikis. And with time, you'll start to pick up a bit of the HTML as well as the CSS. So where can you use CSS on your wiki? Well, you can set up your own personal CSS page that's attached to your user account, and this will apply to just your account on all wikis that you visit. But if you're an admin on your wiki, you also can edit the CSS page of your wiki, and you'll see it listed here. The CSS page is mediawiki:common.css. When you edit this page, these CSS characteristics are going to apply just to your wiki. So in this session, we're going to just talk about that, how to edit the MediaWiki Common CSS page, and some tips on how to do that. So I'm now going to hand off to Tor, since he's much better at CSS than I am, and he's going to walk you through the basics of CSS, as well as give a live demo at the end. And I want to give him a big thanks in advance because normally he's helping to do all sorts of other engineering stuff here on the site, and I was lucky to get him to be with us today.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, I'm Tor. I'm an engineer here at Wikia and a long-time Wiki editor. In my job at Wikia, I usually fix bugs and help out with different technical issues, but today I'm going to try to teach you a bit about what CSS is and how it works. So let's dive right in. The slide you're seeing is an introduction to basic CSS syntax. And what CSS is at a very basic level is it's a set of rules that let you define how certain elements of your page look like and behave. But before you start applying those rules, you have to tell the browser which elements these rules are to apply to. And that's done via what's called a selector. In this case, on the slides, it's a header or an H1 element. And then when you have the selector, you add a set of declarations consisting of a property or what you want to change and a value that is what you want to change it to. So on this slide, you're seeing an H1 element or every header on the page modified so that its color is blue and its font size is 12 pixels. So a selector can be any HTML element. So for example, paragraphs, different types of headers, links, or images, and really any HTML element, so anything you see on the page. And you define a CSS style or a set of rules by beginning with the selector, followed by a curly bracket, and then within those brackets you set out a list of definitions, each being a property and a value, and each line has to be terminated with a semicolon. Now, the important thing is not to be afraid to make mistakes. If you make a typo or an error, the browser will just ignore it. Nothing will break. Your page might not look like you wanted it to, but it will still work. Elements can be referenced by the HTML tag that's associated with them, but usually you don't want to modify every single link or every single paragraph on the page. You want to be more specific than that. So you might want to modify exactly one element, and that's done by referencing the element's ID. You have to find it in the HTML, which we'll get to in a sec. But examples of what you might want to reference by ID on your wiki would be the notification bubbles, the word mark, the navigation, or the search box area. So here's an example of how you might want to do that and reference an element by ID. In this example, we changed the color of the notification box from blue to red so that it's more in tune with the wiki and its character. But web pages being what they are, you don't usually want to be so specific and focused on one single element. You usually want to change a group of elements together because they're similar, so they should also appear similar. That's done in CSS, but by what we call classes. And classes are a grouping of elements, of HTML elements. You either have to find a class in HTML that Wiki has defined, or you can define classes in your own templates that you later reference in your CSS. So what can have classes? Essentially any HTML element you can subdivide into groups. You can have different types or classes of paragraphs, different classes of links, images, and much, much more. Here's a good example that I know one of the users has been asking about before we even started. So on Wikia, you have links to non-existent pages, which are shown as red. The fact that they're red is because we've set the default CSS for those links to be red. But on your wiki, you can decide that that's not what you want and modify their look to say that they should be bold and green, for example. And you can play around with with CSS like that to get your wiki to look exactly how you want it to. So what are the common things that you want or can change using CSS? We've seen people around Wikia change images and image borders and boxes. A lot of things happen around info boxes and how they look and behave. People also modify tables, different templates, and stuff like that. So here's a common example with an info box that we're gonna just modify to show you how this works. So in Firefox or Chrome, you can right click on Harry and select the inspect element option. That will show you a bunch of scary code, but don't be afraid. It's actually pretty simple once you get to know it. On the left side of this pop-up at the bottom of your screen will be the HTML. And on the right side, you'll see the CSS that's associated with that HTML. So here you can see the defined CSS styles for that info box. Its border should be gray, background color should be kind of grayish, and color should be kind of black almost. So we're gonna change that and say the border should not be 1 pixel, it should instead be bigger and have 10 pixels, and it should be red to be easily visible. And you can tweak many of those styles or add new ones to make your info boxes look exactly how you want them to. You can also play around with placement. This is governed by the float property, and it's usually set to right, but here we can flip that to be left, and you'll see the info box jump immediately to the other side. Now, one important thing about this is you're not actually changing how the page looks and behaves. You're just testing out your styles. So once you change those, nobody will see it on the wiki. And even if you just refresh the page, the changes you've made will disappear. To make them permanent, you have to put them in the MediaWiki common CSS file. So there are a couple of good practices and hints when you edit that. Firstly, you should try to organize your CSS styles into sections or link like with like. If you're going to style the info box, every style related to that should be close together so that another editor that would want to change that can easily find the styles and modify what he wants. Another thing is within your selectors, list the properties in alphabetical order. This example we see here is not perfect, but it's close. We see the margins are close together, which lets you quickly grasp what the element will be shown as. The border and the background are in front, and it's quite okay. If you just notch down your properties in whatever order, people will get confused or stuff will get lost or forgotten. And also, it's good practice to space out and have one property per line and separate the definitions line by line. One other thing that you might be wondering about in this slide are the funky hex codes. The AAAAA. Did I count that correctly? Yeah, I think it.
Close enough.
Okay. So these are colors or color definitions in hex codes. You can also do RGB, but if you're just starting out, you can also just specify a color by name and say black, white, gray, blue, and whatever. If you want to go into a specific shade of a color, then you will have to use hex codes. But there's a lot of tools on the web that will let you pick a color, and we'll give you the hex code you need to use here. So an important property of CSS, and hence its name, is cascading. What that means is CSS styles are applied in sequence, and you can apply more than one style to one element, like we see in this example here. And then they will be, the browser will compute or combine all the styles to give you the final look of the element. And actually, this is what you are using when you're editing your common CSS file, because you're, in essence, overriding the defaults that Wikia has set for your wiki. And you're using this cascading property to apply new styles to existing styles. Also, when you're trying to edit or make up new styles for your wiki, it's again, it's good to think in terms of groups of elements and not just a specific image or a specific page. You need to think in terms of what your wiki will look like and not what a specific page or a specific element of a page will look like. And also try not to be too crazy with your design. It is possible in CSS to have black text on black background, but then nobody will ever read that. And that's what they came to your wiki to do. So try to have legible and easy on the eyes styles. And now that you know CSS, here's a few CSS jokes that you might want to enjoy and pass along to your fellow editors.
Thanks, Tor. We're now going to move into the live demo, but before we do, 2 questions that came up. And Apostol, thank you for bearing with us on our jokes. I spent a lot of time on CSS this week and found these hilarious, so hopefully all of you on the interwebs do as well, especially the bike helmet one, since I ride my bike to work. So how is this different from the theme designer? This was asked early
Good
on.
Question.
Tor, do you want to talk a little bit how this is different?
Sure. So Theme Designer is a tool that lets you essentially use CSS without even knowing CSS. It's what we've built for you to let you modify some of the most common and most basic aspects of your wiki in an easy way. Now, if you want more than Theme Designer gives you access to, then you have to use CSS. My advice would be, if you don't have to, don't go into the tricky or the harder part. If you can do something in Theme Designer, then do that in Theme Designer. Do you think that's your question?
I think that covers it. I think, this is, a step above the theme designer. Sometimes if you want to add extra shadows or adding extra borders, that's where you need to then start learning CSS. But if you are very interested in your basic design and having things all match really well, the theme designer is a really great place to start. Another question, just for now, and then we'll go into live demo and then we'll do more questions, is someone was asking about the inspect element we showed. So the inspect element is in Chrome. In Firefox, it's called, you need to add an add-on.
You don't actually. In the newest version of Firefox, you should also have an inspect element option on your right-click menu.
If you have an older version, this is called Firebug. And someone asked if this exists in Safari, and it does. If you go into your preferences in the advanced section, there's an area called the develop menu, and you need to enable that, and there they call it Web Inspector.
But it works similarly to what we've shown. So.
Yeah, and the cool thing about using those tools is it really lets you learn some of the language. So, if you want to change a header, it helps you to learn how to find the header. It also lets you change those. So if you're like, oh, I really want to test out having a thicker border, but I know maybe I shouldn't do this without talking to the other admins, then you can actually do this on your own computer, take a screenshot, share it, or just play around.
Exactly.
That's what I spent a lot of time this week playing around with this. So that was really helpful. Just some resources. So all of these webinars and other help pages and stuff all live on Community Central, so community.wikia.com. We have a very active forum there and a lot of really great Wikians who know a lot about CSS. So don't be afraid to ask questions in the community forum. Also, there's a site called W3 Schools that's kind of the go-to spot on the internet for CSS help. So if you visit their site, you can get mini tutorials. They actually have something kind of like the inspect tool where you can do little kind of put in some of the code and it'll display it to you on the right hand side, kind of like a visual editor. So that's a great place to learn, and there's a ton of support materials there as well. So now we are going to move into a live demo section. So I'm just going to get out of here and go into Chrome. Hopefully all of you can still see that. So we are on the Eberron Wiki.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it properly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is a place Tor likes to hang out.
Yeah, it's a D&D setting that I like to play in.
No idea what that means, but
so
great.
I know some of the users well. So yeah. So the live demo is actually about showing you on a real wiki how this all works. And I'll just go into the inspect element. The thing I'm going to be changing is the navigation box here at the bottom. I know many wikis use those to easily move around related articles. So we're just going to make this look prettier than it does.
So this is a navigation box here at the bottom that
Yes.
is called the dragon marked houses.
Yeah. And I went into the template that governs this and added a class called navigation box, so that now I can reference this in my CSS. But
can you use Control F to search through this HTML?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. You don't have to show that. I'm just curious. I know for me on web pages, I often use Control F to find stuff.
So now I'll go into changing the look of this. Let's see. Let's make the background of this be black. Now we barely see the text, so we need to go in and change the link color to be white, for example. Ta-da. And then once we have that, we might want to have a border around the whole box so that people know where it begins and where it ends. So let's add a border of 1 pixel, solid black.
Tor, actually, there's a question here, and
Yeah.
maybe you can answer it as you're doing this.
Sure.
So what we saw in the earlier screenshot, it's saying 1EM.
Oh,
what is 1EM?
Right. That's an excellent question. So CSS supports many different formats of giving it width or height measurements. So what we see here is 1px, meaning 1 pixel, but we can also use 1 point, which would be a typographical measure, and em is also a typographical measure. Em just means the height of the small letter M in the font that you're using. So that's something that typographers used to use or are using when they typeset books, and it's also carried over to the web.
Okay, wow, that's thick.
So, yeah.
Wow, cool.
So we might not want to have it as thick as this.
But you can do 0.5 EM
yeah.
too.
Okay. You can use fractions if you want. So we now have this marked up and it kind of looks nice. We might want to transfer it over to the common CSS. So I changed the link color here, the border of the header, and the border around the whole thing. So, sorry, let's go into edit mode. And there should be a section at the bottom called navigation. We don't really want this. to be here. So our navigation box should have a border of 1px solid black, and I'm typing this in from memory, but you can also copy it from the inspector here. So you can do this, copy and paste. Right, now remember to terminate every single line with a semicolon, because otherwise it will just not work.
If you forget the semicolon, then it's not going to do that declaration.
Yeah. And
will it do the rest of what's in the curly brackets?
Yes.
Or it'll skip everything?
Yes, it will skip well, obviously, if you miss a semicolon here in this place, then it will treat those two as one declaration, and neither will work.
Oh, so it
might
skips everything from till the next semicolon.
But if you miss this one, then it will probably work anyway, because it's the end of the.
Okay, it just won't make anything black. Yeah. Interesting.
So we have a header. TH is a table header in our template. And we're missing something else. I think it was the link.
And so this is kind of highlighting how it's cascading, right? Because you have the box design, you have the header of the box design, and now you have the link design.
Yep. TH, and we're missing an A here. And the color of the link was supposed to be white. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good. So we can now save this.
Let's hope so. It's crediting to my name.
Yeah, this might actually not show up immediately, so don't freak out, because we're caching heavily. Yeah, it's not showing up. The reason it's not showing up is that it's cached, and it might take a while for your changes to because this is just CSS is cached for longer than the page, and it's independent from the page itself.
Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know what caching is out there, basically Wikia uses a tool called caching that we don't make every single update of everything right away. And the reason that is because it would make our site very, very slow, because we have so many contributions happening all day. So certain things like the CSS page might only update once a day. Yeah,
it's. I think it's set to 24 hours update, and it might happen sooner because it's 24 hours for the whole site. Okay. So not 24 hours after your change, but every 24 hours you get a purge of everything. Okay. And like Sarah said, cache is good because it makes the site faster, but sometimes it gets in your way in the sense that you don't see your changes immediately. But if you get back to this page tomorrow, you'll see that the navigation box is styled with the black header and white text and everything.
Okay, so that's one thing to remember too when you're editing CSS, is that if you don't see it right away, don't have a panic attack. You'll be okay. But after, say, 2 days, if you don't see it, then either contact us at Wikia or check the CSS and make sure, like Tor said, there's no missing colons, the brackets are all closed, and all of that.
Yep.
Okay, great. A couple of other questions from the community. Is this accessible on the admin toolbar? I think what they mean within the admin dashboard. So I can answer that. The admin dashboard does not have a link to the CSS page. You need to go to your wikis, as you see here, this URL, the MediaWiki common.css. You should, if you wanted to, you could add it down in here on your custom toolbar if you had room, or in your My Tools. If you have room, you can add it there, but it's not by default currently found in the admin dashboard. Another question, does this work for Monobook and Wikia Mobile?
Yeah, so common CSS, like the name suggests, is common for all the skins. And the changes you make here will apply to both Monobook and the Wikia skin. I'm not sure about the mobile version. I think that overrides. So it will not affect the mobile skin, but it will affect all the desktops desktop skins that we have. And you just have to make the changes in one place in the common.css file to take effect everywhere.
And do some people specify within their CSS things to only apply to, say, monobook?
Yes, there's a file called monobook.css that you can edit to just get changes in the style of monobook, and similarly you can edit wikia.css to just get edits in to just change the look of the Wikia skin.
Yeah, so I guess to clarify that, on Common CSS, MediaWiki Common CSS, it's going to apply to all skins. If you only want to make a change to just the Wikia skin, you do it at wikias.css, and if you just want to apply to monobook, you do it at monobook.
Yep.
Slightly complicated, but it lets you have more options. How do I know if my wiki already has CSS?
So if your wiki didn't have CSS, it would be a white page with black text and blue links, because that's how the internet looks without CSS. Every page on the internet, including every page on Wikia, has some CSS to make it look pretty and nice. You might ask if your wiki has custom CSS on it, which you can find out by just going to mediawiki.common.css and seeing if anything is there. If there is something, then somebody has customized your CSS.
And most likely, any wiki that's out of one of our defaults or doesn't have many changes will probably, if you have an active community, done a little bit of CSS adjustment. Yeah. So even Tor's wiki here, that's fairly basic on the main page. You can see he did, tweaking of some of his templates. So most wikis have a little bit of change, and anything that you'd see that have a bunch of borders or really complex kind of fading and colors, they've likely spent a lot of time, and I'm always really impressed at the level of detail people get into on their CSS. When will the recording of this be posted? Hopefully as soon as I can get it up. If not later today, probably by early next week. And I will put it on Community Central as well as on our YouTube channel, so the Wikia YouTube channel. As soon as I can do it, it'll be up. One last question so far. If anyone else has questions, now is the time to send them in. Question, which will definitely go to Tor, is as support of HTML5 grows, how will CSS become less important? So maybe first precursor is, what is HTML5?
Right. So the web, as you know it, is built from essentially three parts. There is HTML, which governs the structure of the page and outlines what each element is. And then there is JavaScript, which makes it be interactive and makes the pages move and behave in certain ways. And then there's CSS, which makes the page look pretty and modifies how it looks, essentially. HTML5 will not affect CSS in the significance of CSS. If anything, CSS will become more important in the future as HTML gains popularity, because with HTML5 you can actually build desktop applications using web technologies, and you can use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on your home computer without even a connection to the internet.
Wow.
People have written games like Quake or ported games to HTML using CSS and JavaScript. So yeah. And also HTML5 gives you more capabilities and more fine-tuned ways to use CSS because of the way how the two interact.
Cool. So CSS isn't going anywhere?
No.
No, it's here to stay. Okay. Another question, can you change chat features with CSS?
I'm not sure if chat takes or respects the common.css style sheet, but it should. So you might want to try that out and just see what happens.
Hypothetically, you should be able
Yeah.
to change the borders or the
Yeah.
design like you can any other
Yeah.
feature. Okay. Any other questions from our lovely audience? Going once, twice, 3 times you're sold, Friday night. So I think that's most of our questions from the community. As we mentioned, let me bring that slide back up that has the.
Just one question.
Oh.
Is there a limit to how much we can change? We just change everything.
Is there a limit to how much we can change? So as Tor mentioned, there is, we do put cautions on how much you do change. So I have been to some wikis where it seems like a great idea to have neon yellow on neon green, but it also means you can't read the page. I would also be careful with transparency. So a lot of wikis, obviously seeing the background across it is really cool, but it makes it impossible to read. So we do ask that you keep some of the main Wikia features, solid, but you can tweak to fit your community. I think just remember, you want the people come to see the images on your wiki and the content that you guys spend time writing, so you want to make sure they can actually read it.
And when changing, focus on that.
Yeah.
Rather than changing the stuff that's outside of the content area.
Yeah.
Because you have to remember that people might come to your wiki from a different wiki or be familiar with Wikia as a larger site. So if you move stuff around or obscure some things, they might get lost.
Yeah. So you want to make sure that people know where to go and where to find out the information. Again, I just wanted to show where we have some resources. So on Community Central as well as on the W3 Schools site. And I want to thank all of you for coming. I'm going to post these. And so if you have any questions afterwards, you can feel free to put questions either on the YouTube channel or just on the top page of the page, or just send in a question to me, or and I will, Tor sits next to me for the next week, so yeah. I will ask Tor to help. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I also want to give one last pitch that I organize these sessions on a monthly basis. So if there is a topic that you'd love to see a webinar on, so something that's been really confusing you, or you want some advice, or you heard about this new feature and you have new questions, please just leave me a message on Community Central. I'm happy to set up webinars with other staff members. If you really want to hear from, other engineer at Wikia or a product manager or anything like that, I'd love to set up a session that everyone really wants to hear about. So please let me know. And I want to thank Tor very much for helping me out all week and for presenting, and for Bert, who is hanging out in the background answering all of your questions. And hopefully all of you understand these really nerdy jokes that we put here. So have wonderful days, and thanks for attending.
Thanks, guys. Happy editing.